Hello and welcome to episode 100 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're a source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. We're basically just two regular dudes drinking some irregular beer and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
And tonight we have the most irregular beer we have ever drank on the podcast. It is very special. Jeff, what's on tap?
All right. This evening we have a award-winning Theives Guild ImperiMILL Stout. This is brewed by the Regular Brewing Co. The style, of course, is an ImperiMILL Stout, classic style. Its percentage ABV is unknown, and there's no art for it. I thought about doing some art, but in the end, it's artless.
Yeah, it's artless. Maybe we'll get one at some point. The joke is, of course, this is our beer. We made this for the 100th episode. So we thought that we'd have to rate a beer that we made together. Now, we haven't tasted it yet. We don't know what it tastes like.
Yeah.
Jeff, is it time? Should we drink Theives Guild ImperiMILL Stout?
Yeah. Let's give it a taste and then get to some Magic news.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay. That's, yeah. Well, we're going to drink a lot of this tonight.
Yeah.
We'll find out what the ABV is. Possibly. I don't know.
Right, yeah. That's how I always figure out the ABV of my beers, is like, just have a night where you have a few of them and you're like, ooh, yeah, that was a strong one.
Yeah, that's more than your average beer. All right. Okay. Well, Jeff, let's talk a little bit about the beer before we get into some more regular Magic things. We came up with the idea, I don't know, a few months ago that we wanted to do something really special for this episode, and we wanted to be able to make a beer that was also one of our favorite decks. And since the beginning of the podcast, if you remember, if you've been here, we are a huge fan of the Dimir Rogues standard deck. Of course, Rogues care about milling, and Theives Guild Enforcer is one of the main cards in Rogues. So Theives Guild ImperiMILL Stout. I think you already understood, but I just wanted to spell it out.
ImperiMILL just rolls off the tongue.
It's so easy to say and hilarious. So really, before we get into all the magic-y things, Jeff, we should tell the story of making the beer, and specifically the part of the story I don't know yet, because...
Okay.
So I'll start with the beginning, and then you bring us in at the end. So we went to Jeff's house down in Hamilton to make the beer. He made a recipe for us, or found one online, and we tweaked it a little bit with whatever we could find at his local brew shop.
Yeah. Brew Time, if anyone's in Hamilton. I love the guys over there.
Yeah.
It's a really nice shop.
It was very nice. And gathered our ingredients. It was nice and milled for us by the folks over at Brew Time. We documented the whole thing on Instagram, so if you want to see it, you can. It was also freezing cold. But Jeff,
yeah, that was a cold day.
Yeah, it was a really cold day. We were out on his deck, and he has like a propane stove that he had bought for this. Because this was the first time you had used that propane stove, right?
Yeah, I just bought it. Basically, like, I used to do it in my apartment on my stove. Now that I own the house, I don't really want to, like, do that, especially since the kitchen's quite small in my house. So I think you could do it, but, like, the whole house would smell like beer.
Yeah.
And my wife and son probably wouldn't appreciate that. So I wanted to figure out a way to do it outside. As you say, like, I mean, Hamilton doesn't get that cold, so I thought it would be fine. Well, I mean, our listeners are probably like, what does not get that cold mean? Like, Hamilton rarely drops that far below 0 degrees Celsius. But that day, I think it was like minus 15, maybe? Something like that.
It was cold and very windy.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did all the steps we needed to do. We added all the things. And at that point, I don't know how many hours it took, but we'd also had a few beers, of course.
Yeah.
But then we have to let it cool down overnight, and then Jeff would add the yeast in the morning time when it has cooled to room temperature, That's when you don't either boil the yeast up or they don't eat all their food too quickly and make your beer taste weird. Like all my beers.
Yeah. Yeah, and funny story like about it just being outside in the cold. It was a really nice process to do it outside because you could just like there's a lot of dumping stuff out and whatever, and having the big deck and like the garden hose right there was super handy. But my wife Julius, she sends me a picture at some point taken from we have a Google camera in our backyard, and it's just like me and Zach, and we look really cold, just like sitting on the whatever patio furniture we have back there.
The patio furniture that had been like snowed on, and so we had to flip it so it wasn't like so wet. And we're just trying to
we're just like as close to the fire as we can be
because we had to be outside because the burner kept blowing out, so like the flame was going out. Because
we didn't have it on full blast either. When we figured out that it can go higher, it stopped blowing out.
It was like 2 hours of like watching a soccer game and going outside and be like, "Ah, oh, damn it!" Like it blew out again.
Oh yeah, the World Cup was on. Yeah. We gotta watch this thing. Like, let's just go out there and sit by it.
Yeah, but Jeff,
block the wind with our bodies.
Tell us what else happened. There apparently it was a very eventful fermentation.
Well, actually, the fermentation was not eventful. So I pitched the yeast, and what you do is you aerate the wort. So I tend to just use a whisk, and I like really whisk the crap out of it to aerate it, and then you pitch the yeast into that. That kind of just gets it jump started, gets you off to a good fermentation start. The problem of what I ended up doing is I was like, oh, we have this cold storage room in the basement where you put like potatoes and stuff like that, pickles, whatever. And I was like, that's perfect to put all my beer stuff. That way it's like out of the way, it's not blocking anything. Like Julia doesn't have to like trip over it as she's walking around the house. So I go and I put it down there, and that was that. I let it sit there. But when I come back, it's just like, it definitely did not ferment enough. Like you could tell, honestly, just kind of looking at it. And I was like, what the hell happened? Like it just didn't ferment. And then I realized it's probably like 4 degrees Celsius or something in that cold room.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a walk-in fridge. It's literally like a walk-in fridge, and that really like slows the process, especially for ale yeasts, which is what we use. They don't want cold temperatures. So I basically just like slowed down the whole process because the whole process is like energy transferred. It all slows down in the cold, and ale yeast isn't really meant to do that. Now I looked it up, and it's like our ale yeast wouldn't be dead. So I could, as soon as I heat it up and get it started again, it will, keep fermenting. So that was the good thing. The beer wasn't totally ruined. But I did have to like message Zach and be like, hey, we're going to need a few more days for this thing to ferment. It's going to take like a whole day for this to warm up to room temperature. And then it's got to take a few days to ferment. It's like behind my Christmas tree in the corner, because I'm like, where can I put this that's out of the way? Just chilling behind my Christmas tree in the corner of the living room. But anyways, I think we dodged that. But anyways, in the end, when I took the reading, it was like 7 to 8% range was the original gravity. I realized that I've been using a device that is not calibrated to make these readings, so they don't mean much. That's why we say the ABV is like question mark. We don't know. Yeah. But we shot for like 10% in the recipe, and we were definitely not totally efficient. So I'm guessing it's, strong, but maybe not 10.
It feels strong. I just drinking it right now. It feels pretty strong.
Yeah.
But but tell me the juice, Jeff. I'm waiting for the juice of the story.
I know. I'm trying to get there as slowly as possible. Gotta build up to it.
Yeah.
But anyways, the plan was to put this in a keg.
Yes.
Because that cuts down the amount of time. If you bottle it, you got to wait for the yeast to naturally eat the sugar you add in, and that produces CO2. And because it's capped, it's bottled, that's what carbonates it. But that takes another 2-ish weeks. So we decided we'll just put it in a keg, hook it up to my keg system, and pump CO2 into it. That'll take a day or two. So that was the plan. Now, the problem is my system is equipped to handle commercial kegs. They're called Sankey kegs. Now, you're not supposed to, use these for home brewing, they're not designed to be opened by humans. Like, they are supposed to be put into a machine. The machine like cleans it, and then you hook it up to a beer thing, a filler, and it fills it. And it's never really actually meant to be opened and closed by a human. But I've developed a system where I can open and close this keg I got from the beer store and hook it up to my kegerator. And that's worked fine. But recently I swapped it because I'd used one from Sleeman for years, and I was always doing it this way. And I decided, you know what, I'll return the keg to the beer store finally. I will buy another keg. I decided on Ace Hill. When I drink that, then I'll have my keg to fill my home brew with. For whatever reason, even though it looks exactly the same, it should be exactly the same. All these breweries like swap kegs around. I don't know. The Ace Hill one, it doesn't seem to really work for whatever reason. But I'm going to keg our beer, and I've decided I use my system. So my system involves driving a flathead screwdriver between this ring that locks everything in place and the keg and popping the ring out. And then once you do that, you can like pull everything out and you can open it.
Okay.
But the ring is it's like a little metal ring that locks everything in place. Anyways, I have a screwdriver that's perfect. Okay. It fits right in the little area of the keg, and you can just like jam it. I couldn't find that screwdriver. So I grabbed a different one that was smaller. This thing was like a really small flathead. And I'm going to pop the ring out. And because it's not a perfect fit, it ends up slipping. And I actually jam the screwdriver through my finger. Like, it went in. I don't know if you could really see it. It's pretty healed now. It went in there, and it came out on top of my nail.
Oh, my God.
And so I'm sitting there with a screwdriver that's like, I'm like just in shock because I'm like, it went through my nail from the bottom. Like, I can see it poking through my nail. And out of like gut reaction, I just rip it out.
Oh, no.
And so now I just have like my fingers bleeding everywhere. And I go up to the bedroom and I'm like, Julie, can you help me? I need some Polysporin and a Band-Aid. She gets out the first aid kit. She's like freaking out, wondering if I need to go to the hospital. It didn't end up being that bad because the screwdriver is really small. But that's what made it so sharp too. But it just went.
Oh my God. Oh.
Yeah. So, anyways, we patched me up, and then I'm able to fill this keg eventually. The system does work. By the way, the screwdriver was right where it was supposed to be. The one that I'm supposed to use. I don't know how I didn't see it, but it's like literally exactly where it was meant to be. And I hook it all up, and it's just not working. I guess my system broke the Ace Hill keg or something. It's not a tight seal anymore, and so it doesn't hold the air. So I actually can't even use this keg that I've now sacrificed my flesh for. No. This was kind of the last straw where I was like, fuck it, I'll buy the keg that you're supposed to use as a home brewer. So I went to Brew Time, and I got a setup for a corny keg, which is short for Cornelius. It's basically what they use for soda. So if you've ever used a soda keg in like a restaurant or something,
Gotcha.
That's where home brewers took these from, because the soda kegs, you just pop them open.
Okay.
So I bought that, and I bought all the stuff to convert my kegerator to work with corny kegs. It was like $100 in the end, and giving the keg back to the beer store will get me, or it was $90, and giving the keg back to the beer store will get me $50 back. So it's like essentially $40.
Okay.
So I don't know why I spent years avoiding making this purchase, but now I have the proper keg, and that's what the beer's in now. But the problem is Cornelius kegs have an in and an out. So the Sankey keg for a brewery just has one thing. You put the keg itself has only one entry point, and then you have a regulator not a regulator, whatever, the attachment on your kegerator. That has gas in and beer out, but you just crank that thing onto the keg. A corny keg has two separate nozzles. It has one for a gas line and one for a beer out line. And I wanted to just quickly test to make sure it was sealed properly, that it would hold. And so I just connected the gas line, and I cranked some gas into it, some CO2. Now, of course, the other the beer outline is wide open. There's nothing on it. And so it shoots across my basement. And it just happened to be pointed right in line with a rug that my wife bought and put down there. And it's where she goes and takes my son down there and folds laundry and stuff when she does laundry. And it's just a huge black stout stain right down the middle of this thing. It's splashed everywhere, like literally right at this rug, all over it. It's all over the wall. I'm like panicking. Like, how do I make it stop? Can I turn off the gas, but it's still going? So I'm like depressurizing the keg. And then eventually it like trickles off, but I'm just looking like this rug is beyond ruined. Like there is no, you can scrub this stain out. The whole rug is now stout stain, and it even like got our carpet that's below the rug down there too, hoping we can get with a carpet cleaner. And then at the end of it all, I like knock over a wine glass and that shatters everywhere. And I have to like vacuum that.
Oh my god!
But eventually, we got it. It cost me one rug, one finger, one keg, and one wine glass. But we did get the beer in the keg in the kegerator.
Oh my god! Oh my god! So I went over to get the beer, and so I heard about the rug and I saw the stain. I was just thinking it was like a fermenting thing that you took it out of the cold, brought it in the warm.
Shot across the whole room.
Oh man.
And it was a really bonehead move. It was my fault for that one for sure. But like, I just couldn't believe it. Like right on the rug. So I might not be allowed to ever make beer again. I don't know.
That sucks. But it's so funny.
Yeah. This was the keg. Like usually kegging is not a significant hurdle in the beer.
That's what I thought.
Process. You just clean the keg and then you pour the beer in the keg. That's all you do. But this was, this took some time. It took some sacrifice, but we got there.
Well, Jeff, thanks for sacrificing.
Yeah.
There you go. Maybe this should have been named something Racto Sac because you're sacrificing so many things.
That's right. Yeah, I sacrificed everything for it.
Oh, man. That's so funny. Anyway. So far, I mean, like, that was a great story. We will write that recipe down, and it will involve all of those steps.
Oh, yeah. You have to put a screwdriver through your finger.
Through your finger. You have to ruin a rug, break a glass. It's going to be a new thing, like, at Greek weddings when they stomp on the glass or whatever, and it's like, hey, mazel tov. Exactly. It'll be like that, except for every time you make a beer. You have to pick one person who brewed the beer with you and stick a screwdriver through their finger, and everyone's, like, drawing straws to see who gets it. Oh, God.
I have the perfect one. It cuts right through like butter.
Perfect. Oh my god. Anyway, let's get on with the rest of our episode. We have some magic news. Oh god. Anyway, it is a new year. Hooray! And it's our most exciting episode ever.
You heard it here first, folks. The year 2023 has started.
It has started. Congratulations. Also, the Arena Decathlon has started again. It's the second year they've done this. And last year, I loved it. But this year, I think I like it even more because they took our criticism. Wizards listened to us and changed something. And the main thing is they changed the date of when it started. Instead of starting right before Christmas and then going through Christmas when everyone's in their holidays and New Year's and with family and blah, 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 they did right after when nobody has anything to do. And they're like, oh, sick. I got this sweet magic event to play.
Much better time.
Oh, it's amazing. January is the best time to do this. Are you kidding? Yes.
Yeah.
Everything's slow. It's amazing. The chef's kiss. Love it.
Yeah. So if you didn't play in it last year, you don't know it. Basically, there's going to be like... They're not full weeks, I guess 3 or 4 days at a time. And there's 5 of those sections of days. And each one has 2 different formats you can play. So in total there's 10 events because it's 5 sections, each with 2 different formats. If you get to the full 7 wins, like a perfect run or a good run, qualifying run, you get this token. And then if you get tokens from 3 different events, you get entered into the finals, and the finals is a really cool event. It's sealed, but everyone has the same pool. So it's something I've thought about a lot. Obviously, you can't really do it in paper. It's just not practical, but it's a really cool way to use Arena because it's super easy for them to implement on Arena. I wonder if it's like a curated pool. Has Wizards built it to be interesting?
That's what it looked like when I was reading it. So they didn't. This wasn't the finals last year. Last year was just like sealed.
Right.
And so this year they're doing sealed, but it's like all skill in your deck building, basically, and how much time you spend, I guess, memorizing the cards, because you will know what your opponent's playing or like what cards they could play. And apparently,
for sure, I'm taking screenshots of
everything.
Pool.
Yeah. They said that there are multiple different viable decks in the pool, and you need to identify which one you think is the one that you should play.
Right. That's cool, because if they did it randomly, you could just get a pool where it's like, okay, it has to be blue black. There's the only
exactly.
And those are the only cards.
But apparently, there's a bunch of different viable strategies. I don't know how big the sealed pool is. Also, they just said that it's like. I'm assuming it's a regular size sealed pool, but it could be larger because
it might be a little bigger.
Who knows?
To facilitate having multiple decks you can build out of it.
I wonder if it's going to feel like Arena Cube, but like sealed.
Right. Yeah.
I just hope there aren't too many
cube sealed essentially
alchemy cards, because Cube sealed has a bunch, or Cube has a bunch of alchemy cards. We'll find out. I guess I don't really know. It's crazy. But anyway, the decathlon's a lot of fun, and winning the finals is fantastic because you get one of every copy of the next set that comes out, which is Phyrexia All Will Be One. I did it last year, and I got one of everything from Kamigawa, and it was the best way to start the year. It was amazing.
Have you played in this one at all?
I have 2 tokens so far. I did the first 2. It was like Popper and Jump In. And
nice.
I tried playing the Triple Dominaria Sealed event this last week, and I went 0-3. It was bad. It was real bad. So I got really kind of crushed by that, and then just it was like, you know what, fuck this for a little bit.
It's bullshit, man.
But I'll probably play tomorrow. Right now there's one that's a traditional draft, so I'll probably play that one.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of bummed out by this pair. It was just like 2 normal formats. And draft and alchemy.
That's what I like.
And I was like, oh, I want my like weirdo fun format. Like,
I hate those ones. It's so funny. I mean, like the jump in one was fun because I love pre-constructed decks, but which those are basically pre-constructed decks. Come on. But all the ones where it's like standard, but you get a different token every turn, and you get to choose what the token is.
Yeah.
Anytime you have like a weird format where you have to build a deck for it, I am immediately turned off. I don't want to do it. I was like, if someone hands me a deck, I will definitely play, and it will be fun. I just don't want to build anything. Don't make me build a deck for this. Come on.
Yeah, for sure. I was more referring to like the jump in or the sealed that's not an actual sealed format. That kind of stuff I think is cool.
Got it.
And those are the 2 I played in. So I did get my token off the jump in. I picked my deck was basically like blue-white flyers with a bunch of tempo, and I just steamrolled everyone. I think I got a really good pairing or whatever for the jump in. And then I tried the sealed like 3 times. I played it 3 times. I got decent pools and ended up with what I thought were pretty good decks, but just wasn't in the cards. Like my best deck of all of them, I flooded out a few games, and then so I only really had 1 game to give. And then I misclicked that game away, and like I was, I think 5-2 at that point, and I just literally just clicked the wrong thing, and lost the game. So that was real soul crushing. Yeah. And that's when I was like, okay, I gotta do another one to get this back. And then that last one, I just ran into like bomb after bomb after bomb. Like I lost to the stupid flying sphinx with ward that like factor fictions every single time it hits you. Then I lost to like Demon Lord Belzenlock. And then I lost to like Teferi, Hero of Dominaria.
That's the worst one.
Fuck you guys.
Fuck you.
Like, my best rare is like a 3/3 for, or like a 3/2 for 2 or something. It's not that good. I can't compete with this power level of cards.
That's a bummer. It really sucks to run into Teferi because I hate running into that card.
I mean, how are you ever supposed to beat Teferi in sealed? Like I don't think you can.
No,
it's ridiculous.
No. I've had some hard times, but I am looking forward to getting my third and playing in the finals, and kind of devoting a whole day to it. It seems like it's gonna be a thing. Like building your deck.
Yeah, I want to try and get there too. I think
majority of the time. Well, we might have to like Jeff, if we might just have to like, all right, jump on Discord. We're gonna be talking about the finals. If anybody else gets in the finals, jump on Discord, talk to us. Let's figure out what the best brew is. I think it's a team effort because when you're playing through it, people can have multiple runs. I think they changed it a little bit last year. If you had all 10, you get 3 tries. This year, you can only, the most you can get is 2. So it will be less likely. Last year, when people would win, they would then jump in the queue again and just concede to people to just give them wins, to be like, hey, everybody get as many wins as possible and get all the rewards. This time, I think they're trying to cut back on that a little bit and make it a little bit harder, which is a bit of a bummer. But
because I guess you can't win the one of every card twice.
Yeah, there's a certain when you get to the top, you can only win that once. So because it's like a token, and so you don't really get multiple of this kind of thing.
Right.
But you can get multiple like rare and mythic rare wild cards. But the big one is after like, let me see, I have it up somewhere. I think it's after 3 or 4 wins. Let's see, it's only 2. If you get 2 wins, you get 4 draft tokens, which is
that's awesome,
amazing. So just being in the finals and just getting 2 wins is like they're just throwing stuff at you, which is. Like, if I get into the finals and get the draft tokens, I'm going to feel pretty good. So,
yeah, awesome. Really cool event. Normally, I'm not into these, like, wonky format ones either, but I'm just enjoying them. And I was like, oh, man, normal formats.
Gotcha. That's what you meant by wonky. Yeah. I love random, like, as much chaos type of sealed as we can, or weird limited formats is my favorite.
Or give me one where there's, like, 10 decks to choose from. You know, all the different color pairs.
Yeah.
And then we just play with those decks.
Those too.
Those are always fun because they're quick, and I always just pick whatever like
red-black deck.
Black sacrifice deck is.
It's just
the red-black deck's always the best one, man.
I think the last one they did, it was like a treasure deck, and so that's why it was the best. And it was like coming off the heels of Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, and you're like, oh great, treasure shit again. But we do have some other Magic news. This is mainly the format of our episode today. It's just like we're going to talk about stuff. Because congratulations to us. Anyway,
hey man, this episode's for us. It's our 100th one.
Yeah. It's really fun for us. I don't know how much fun it is for you, but I hope you're enjoying it. So this is something it's a bit more serious. So on the show, and part of our philosophy, as far as like people and also just Magic content creators, we don't like talking about leaks. Because leaked cards, it just kind of ruins the fun about Magic all the time. And we already get spoiled cards too soon by the company. So leaks are just like way too soon. And so usually that's just like all downside. And so I'm never super stoked on like sharing leaks. And if you see leaks, try to make sure that if you're sharing them with other people, that they are aware that they're going to see a leak, and it's not a spoiler. It hasn't been officially spoiled, because sometimes they're wrong, and sometimes people don't want to see it. So just be mindful. So that's why we don't talk about it, except for right now. And I'm going to break all the rules I just said. So there has been a gigantic, like run of leaks for Phyrexia All Will Be One. And it's like all the rares have been leaked. Every single one. You could go online, find them right now. I haven't, besides a couple that I wanted to know. But the reason that this felt different is because a big reason that they're leaked is that people are playing Dominaria Remastered events, or like stores are opening up their boxes to get their singles so they can do sales. And in the Dominaria Remastered packs, they are opening rares from Phyrexia All Will Be One. And you
Right.
can't really get mad about that because people are like, what the hell is this? Like, I bought a booster pack.
Right.
I mean, at this moment, that set is not released officially, but they are doing like weekend events for it. It comes out on the 13th. So there's like weekend events and like stores are opening them because they have to, so that they know their inventory so they can have their sales stuff ready.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And these people are like showing videos of like, what's going on? What's happening? And it's like very consistent all over the United States. So, yeah, that just sounds like a big printer. Whoops.
Yeah, it sounds like the rare sheet, because they do rare and common sheets separately.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how they make sure there's one rare in every pack. Sounds like the rare sheets got mixed, right?
Now it's not.
Now it's not a leak.
It's not like completely switched. So it's not like every pack has a
Right.
all will be one card. It's like. So then we'll have to find out if Dominaria Remastered cards are going to be in all will be one pack.
Oh man, that would be rough.
Right? And so then you're like playing a draft and you're like, I'm getting these weird cards. I guess I play it. Like, what do you do? Like, get another pack and then give that one to the store? I don't know. It just seems weird. But
I'm going to fucking lose to Teferi, Hero of Dominaria at the all will be one free-release.
no, you're going to lose to Force of Will and like Vampiric Tutor and, you know, all those cards. You're like, what the fuck is this? Anyway, I cut you off a little bit.
If you buy like a $5 pack and you get cards like that,
that's pretty good.
Pretty sick.
But you could also get whatever other bullshit they have. But sorry, what were you saying? I cut you off. You were saying something about leaks.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's not really a leak because it's just like you said, it's just an accident, unless somebody did this on purpose as a way to leak the Phyrexia all will be one cards.
Sure.
It's like a creative way to get the leaks out there. Yeah, it's just like you said, it's a printer whoopsie. Some of the rare sheets got mixed up in certain print runs or whatever. I still think I probably won't go and like look at them all. Mm-hmm. I kind of like preview season the way it's meant to be. Like they'll show us cards in specific order.
Same.
But I don't know. I don't feel like super strongly about it. I may give in and just go look at it at some point. But
it's I think the most recent one that was an issue was that in Dominaria United, there's that Hero of Argive. What's that white card? I picked it. It's awesome, but it's a 4-drop. But in
Hero of New Argive.
Yeah. In the spoiler, or sorry, in the leak, it cost 2 mana instead of 4, and so that was like the thing that they changed. And people were like, "This is so fucking busted. White's gonna be crazy." Blah blah. And then the card comes out, and it wasn't. And so that's one thing about leaks that you have to be like, just slow your roll. Except for this time because they're actually printed, and that's what they were meant to be. So anyway, if you are interested in leaks, go find them. Just don't share them with your friends if your friends are not interested in leaks. It's like telling them the end of a movie. Like, just don't, just let them wait. Or ask,
Like, I don't even know what planeswalkers are in the set. So that's always like an interesting thing to be revealed to me as well.
All right, Jeff. Sorry to bust your bubble, but we actually officially know the planeswalkers in the set. I thought you knew this already. There's like 10. Did you not see that article?
There's 10? Yeah. No, I didn't read that. What 10?
Yeah. Oh my God, Jeff. Oh, okay. This is just happening. This is amazing. All right, more magic news. This came out like before Christmas. This is like old news.
Oh, yeah, but not... It came out since our last episode, correct?
Yeah. Did you just like jump off the face of the earth?
Right. Yeah. Hey man, without you to tell me the magic news, I don't know what's going on.
This was like...
I know Kaito's there because you posted Kaito in the Discord.
Yeah, well, I mean, that card was revealed. The other ones weren't revealed, but we know which planeswalkers are going to be there. That's the big thing. With an article, it was like an announcement.
10 planeswalkers, huh?
Yeah, well, I guess there are 10 in the story. But, like, I rarely do they... I mean, a lot of time they like to have 3, but, like, this time it feels kind of like there's going to be more. Yeah, this is from December 13th. This article came out. And these are the planeswalkers, and this is the kind of...
No way.
Yeah. All right, so...
I wouldn't have missed that.
Jace, Kaito, Kaya, Koth. This fucking guy. What's his name again? I'm just looking at his picture and I fucking hate him. Luca. There we go. Nahiri, Nissa, Tyvar, Vraska, and the Wandering Emperor. All 10 of them
Super random list. Wow.
will be in the list. But
Very eclectic.
well, but we already knew about some of them because of the story
Yeah, like Koth makes sense because he
has been there.
like was he was on
And Kaya was with
right.
us. So was Tyvar and Nissa and Luca for whatever reason. Jace was going to come with Vraska. The Wandering Emperor is there because Kaito, I guess. And then Nahiri because, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, probably like. I guess my question is like, I assume maybe half of these are like completed planeswalkers,
Yeah,
and so they're fighting for Phyrexia, and the other half are fighting for the good guy, the Mirrans.
yes. Why are you just are you literally just reading the article right now? Because it says this is what we knew a month ago, that like 5 of them were going to be completed. Yeah.
Oh, really? No. Do we know which 5?
We don't. The leaks will tell you which 5.
The leaks would tell you.
Yes.
See, that's the part I think I don't want spoiled.
Exactly.
I want to like enjoy that as it happens.
Except for we have a couple spoilers, which we already knew.
Oh, no.
Even in this article, Koth has not been completed because right under the list,
the Koth
it literally.
Koth card is officially leaked or spoiled.
Yeah, it was officially spoiled in this article. So.
Oh, jeez, this is fucking.
Yeah. So you're so behind. So Koth is safe, and Kaito, the one that I sent, was also spoiled officially.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that are official. The rest.
Damn, that means like there's 5 of 8 that are Phyrexian.
Yeah.
Wow, so most of them are completed.
Yeah, and it's like the pairs. Like Luca probably.
Yeah, I mean, why would they even complete him? He's just evil already.
I know, but
probably helped
now
him for no reason, like he did in Strixhaven.
Well, there you go. So he probably ran towards them and got completed because he wanted to.
Yeah.
Since Kaito hasn't, that means the Wandering Emperor probably is, just to make the tension intense.
I hope they completed both Vraska and Jace so they can still have their
right.
love
So
affair,
then that's 4.
Or didn't complete them, I guess.
Yeah.
But I assume they're completed.
So between the other ones, it's like, so those are the ones that I was thinking, yes, for sure, those are the ones. And so we have Kaya, Tyvar, Nissa, and Nahiri are the ones that are like, are they completed, are they not? So
Right. I guess, like, are the completed planeswalkers gonna die? Like,
we don't know if they can come back. That's what the whole story was
is this
in
the
a
end
Drunken
of
Porthos.
Jace?
It could be. Have we finally come to the end of Jace? That's what I want to know.
That's crazy.
It hasn't been as annoying as like it was in like Ixalan. Was kind of around like, wow, Jace is just everywhere, and I'm so tired of Jace.
Yeah. Now it's like Teferi is always seems
Well,
to
he's
be there.
around and just like doing stupid bullshit, whatever.
Yeah.
Though I mean, like I like him as a character, I guess, but like I don't know.
Yeah. I have nothing.
I just hate his
I
cards.
tend to like that's the thing. I like Teferi cards when they're bad, and I hate the good ones.
Yeah, like
It's always good in such an annoying way because it's like the time mage stuff. But anyways, we're gonna get off topic on that.
I mean, we're completely off topic with this whole thing. We were going to talk about.
We don't have a topic, so how are we off topic?
You didn't. Anyway, I know a couple other things too, but I'm not going to tell you because now I feel like I'll just there are official things I could tell you, but I feel like I'll just wait and not tell you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check out. Probably that'll be my compromise. I'll check out the official stuff. So I'll go check out the Koth card.
Yes.
You know, like I've brought up a few times. I love Big Red, and Koth is like a Big Red card. That's just how he's always designed.
Yeah, that's why he kind of sucks, but whatever.
It is why he sucks.
Yeah.
That's why I like him.
And
he's always like mountain themed, which is like really. It's just not powerful.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like how many something proportional how many mountains you have.
Yeah, Jeff, you don't even need to go read the card. You literally read the card.
It's probably like overcosted and cares about mountains.
Anyway, enough speculating.
Yeah.
We should go to a beer break and get some more of this delicious beer.
Agreed.
Are you ready to crack open the next beer,
Yeah.
Jeff?
Oh yeah.
We are, of course, again drinking some more of our Theives Guild ImperiMILL Stout because we don't know if it's strong enough to be imperial. Although, as I'm talking right now, I think it might.
It's definitely not a light beer.
It's definitely not light beer, that's for sure. Oh,
So
man.
the first beer, when listeners of the show might remember when we got our friend Ryan on the show. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a professional brewer now, but at the time he was an amateur, and the first beer we made was meant to be an imperial IPA, and we undershot the ABV. It ended up being, I don't know, 6% or something, and so we called it a imperial session. Mm-hmm. And it's just like a regular beer.
Yeah.
But I've always liked the idea of calling something an imperial session since then.
Yeah.
It's a drinkable imperial.
Yeah. It's like nice and light for the Sunday afternoon. Oh,
That's
man.
right. In the category of imperial beers, it's light.
Alrighty, Jeff. Let's talk about the namesake of our beer.
Yes. So we've been playing a lot of Rogues.
Yes.
And in the format Explorer. So we're going to talk about Explorer in particular, our journey and adventures with the best deck ever, Rogues. And I think I want to start, you mentioned it a little at the top of the show, but just remind people who maybe are newer or it's been so long, why Rogues is kind of special to us. So I know you mentioned we used to play it and it became our favorite deck. The thing I don't remember if you mentioned or not is that way back, we were trying to demonstrate that you can have a totally free to play account and still play tier 1 decks. And so we made a new account, Arena Regulars Podcast, and we put zero money into it, not even the welcome bonus, $5 welcome bonus that we always suggest people get if they're willing to. Nothing, zero. And we just drafted up a storm, got pretty much everything from Zendikar Rising, and then built a tier 1 deck, and that deck happened to be Rogues. And part of the reason is that Rogues had a lot of uncommons and rares, whereas the other best deck at the time was Gruul Adventures, which is all mythic rares and all rares. So Rogues was the easiest on your wild cards while also being one of the best decks. And because of that, you and I ended up playing a lot of Rogues and just really loving the deck. So it's sort of symbolic for our 100th episode. It's the first tier 1 deck we built as a podcast account. Just it's been sort of a theme of ours ever since. We just love that Rogues deck because it was so fun to play.
Yeah. And when I was beginning Arena and playing, there was a deck you could play after Ikoria came out. There was a Dimir Flash deck because there's a couple cards in Ikoria like this, I don't know, dream serpent guy. I can't remember what he was. But it's every time you play a flash spell, you get to draw a card. And the deck was much more creature based.
Oh, yeah.
And
I remember that guy.
So there was this, and it wasn't very good, but it was kind of a fun, new to Arena deck to play. And I was playing that a lot. And Theives Guild Enforcer came out in M21. I was like, oh, it's perfect for this deck. And I'm playing that. And there's a weird mill theme, but I was like, you only really mill with Theives Guild Enforcer. It's not really mill, it's just flash. And then we come into Zendikar Rising, and I'm like, oh, that's what this card does. And then the deck really formed.
It was a setup.
It was a nice setup, but an annoying setup because it made it that when M21 rotated out, Rogues also rotated out because that's Thieves Guild Enforcer is your 1-drop. It's the card you want to see in your opening hand. It is the thing. And get your deck moving. Because if you're not familiar with Rogues, you're basically playing blue-black, flash creatures, and most of your creatures care about your creatures mill cards, and then the other cards you're playing care about milled cards, which is most importantly Drown in the Lock, which is your counterspell / removal spell, which is amazing.
Yeah,
and
it's the counterspell terminate split card.
Yeah, and Into the Story, which reloads your hand. So it's like it's a tempo
4
deck.
mana, instant speed, draw 4. So.
Yeah. It's just this instant speed deck that plays on kind of whatever turn you can or whatever time you can find that's the best. And most of the matchups you're playing when they're tapped out or whatever, because all your spells basically either have flash or work at instant speed.
And to clarify, like when you say all your cards mill and other cards care about milling, it's milling your opponent actually. So
Yes.
I know nowadays it's like not always clear. A lot of stuff is self-mill. This one is one of the decks that actually cares about milling your opponent. And the standard deck in its heyday, I remember it was. I would say I probably won with, like when I won the game, it was probably with damage more often than mill, but it was close. It was like 60-40 maybe.
I milled I think I milled more than you did probably, because I would go for that line a lot more often, I think.
I always found myself in this situation where I was pushing the mill, I was pressuring them with the mill, and that forced them to deal with it, and then they just die to my creatures. It's like, oh, you killed my ruin crab. All right, take 6 from my soaring thought thief and my
that's true. That's true.
Theives Guild enforcer. That happened to me pretty often. So it was like I won technically with damage, but it's my mill cards that put the opponent in the tight spot where they couldn't really deal with my creatures that were killing them. They had to deal with the ruin crab because that was going to kill them faster, that kind of thing. But it was pretty close to 50-50 whether you were killing them with damage or with mill. And that was part of the charm of the deck, is like whoever realized what the game was about first would tend to win. Like if you knew that you were going to win with mill in this game and your opponent still thinks they have to deal with your damage, you get such an edge out of that. So knowing the deck really well and understanding play patterns and like matchups and how they tend to play out, it was super rewarding on that front. Because you would win a lot of games because you figured out that you were going to mill them out before they figured that out. Yeah. Or you figured out that it wasn't about the mill, it was about damage before they figured it out.
Yeah. And of course, because you're playing the deck and you play it a lot, you are constantly trying to figure out which one you should be working towards. While they don't always know that, or they're not really focused on it because they have their whole deck that they're dealing with.
And of course, you know your hand. So
yeah.
A lot of times you're like, well, I have Ruin Crab Fabled Passage in my hand, which my opponent does not know about. So that's going to be a surprise crap load of mill that they weren't expecting.
Yeah, exactly. And that usually would jumpstart you as well. And also, Ruin Crab Fabled Passage is kind of the namesake in the sense that it's one of the biggest reasons why people fucking hate this deck. People hate rogues. They hate rogues.
Yeah. And that was such a unique experience too. Like you'd play Ruin Crab, and people would concede the game.
The first
or the match.
The match. When you played Island Ruin Crab, they would concede the entire match.
Concede the match
because they didn't want to play against it, which is crazy to me. Yeah. Like, and the deck was not super. I mean, it's very good, but you have to be really good at playing it, which was what was kind of fun about it. And because you can easily lose, like anyone who plays it can easily lose, and that might be another reason why people hated it, because they're like, every time my opponent plays this deck, I lose. Every time I play it, I lose. Fuck this deck.
Right. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
And like newer players just hate mill
in general.
They like milling people. They hate getting billed, and they hate counter spells. So this was a deck that like new players are always going to hate to play against. I think it's sort of like surprising to me. It's always been surprising to me how much hate this deck got. Like you'd see Twitch stream just blow up with hatred during any pro event where Rogues was one of them. It's like, I want anyone but Rogues to win. And it's like, but Rogues is the most interactive deck that's been a good standard deck like we've ever seen. It's all interaction. It's all kill spells and counter spells and creatures. Like, what is there to hate about this? It's really healthy to have a deck like this be the tier 1.
Not even the best, but really good. Because like when
it went in and out of being the best. I think Brew was probably just the best.
It was
overall. If you look back on that standard format, Brew was like the winner.
Because Gruul also had good hate cards against Mill, which usually meant
it was good against Rogues.
Siding in escape creatures,
like an Ox of
Agonis, and the Phoenix, which usually Mono Red did Phoenix and Gruul did Ox of Agonis, but it which also made the game really interesting and forces the Rogues player to play Cling to Dust where you're trying to figure out how to only take out the pieces of your opponent's graveyard you didn't want there.
Yeah, it just like leads to super interesting games, and so it's kind of a shame that it gets this hate just because it has counter spells and like mill, and for some reason people really hate getting milled. I'm not sure why. But yeah, it's unbelievable. I think we on that arena account, I was just playing and I was like, what's my record? And I look back, it's like 17-0 with this deck, but a bunch of them were just instant concessions.
Yeah, just so like, I played no spells.
I got pretty lucky in some of the other matches too and stuff, but it's just like, why are so many people conceding?
Yeah, and that still happens sometimes. Like, so we've wanted to be able to play Rogues whenever we can. It's one of our favorite decks, just from all that. Watching Arne Huschenbett win, I think the Strixhaven Championship against our least favorite deck, which is fucking Emergent Ultimatum bullshit.
Yeah,
is
fuck you, Sultimatum.
So if you like Sultimatum, that's great or whatever. But that was like the best deck,
yeah, of course.
And so seeing the Rogues deck, be able to come in and beat it was just so good. And
Arna played like out of his mind in that whole event. I remember.
Yeah, it was
just constant. I learned so much from watching him.
I would need to go back and watch those matches. I mean, obviously the gameplay will be different and the deck's a little bit different, but the core of it in what we really want to talk about today is that we, and when I say we, I mainly mean Jeff, have built a Explorer Rogues deck to bring Explorer the best deck / Pioneer, if we can get it into Pioneer at some point. But so we do have a list. We're going to post it in our Discord, so we're not going to read it right now. If you want to go check it out, go in the show notes. Our Discord is down there. Come hang out and talk about how much you love / hate Rogues, depending on which side of the fence you are on. But the bulk of the deck...
I think the hatred is like diminished now that it's not in standard.
I don't know. I've been in lower tiers recently, and because I was busy with some stuff, so I kind of fell off the tier wagon. But playing through bronze and silver and gold, people still concede to like...
You're giving them like PTSD when you play
well, now...
Rogue. Like,
no! But, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not playing... Ruin Crab, and this version of the deck doesn't have the same mill potential. So it's just like turn 1 Thieves Guild Enforcer on their end step, and they'll just like spam nice to me. I'm like, wow, like
chill.
Really? Bro, chill. It's a 1/1 right now, man. And then of course I just wreck them. But
then I play my Soaring Thought Thief and attack.
Yeah, and then
have a huge board.
I think specifically that event, it was another Thieves Guild Enforcer on my turn, and then a Merfolk Wind Robber, so that they could attack with as 3/2s. But
I would send a nice emote for that one.
Yeah, a bunch.
But like legitimate, I'd be like nice.
Oh, that was sick. The things that we get in Explorer that we didn't have in Standard are the main things: Fatal Push, Thoughtseize, mana base gets a lot better.
Rogues lost a lot to its own mana in Standard because even though it's just a 2-color deck, it's actually like pretty strict on the colors, because you have like Agadeem's Awakening, which you need, and that's triple black. You have Into the Story is double blue, and then you have a lot of like black-blue stuff. So you really need both colors and a healthy amount of it, because you're trying to play like 2 or 3 spells in a turn in the mid to late game, and they're all like double colors. You need a lot of blue and a lot of black, and Standard just didn't really have the lands for that. You have a lot of like Fabled Passage, you had Zagoth Triomes that you were playing just because that's your best like dual land. So I remember losing a lot of games to mana with the original like Standard Rogues, which is something that I think we all know. I hate losing games to mana, so it's like I almost don't play decks that have sketchy mana, but this one was too awesome not to play anyways. But like the Gruul deck functioned a lot more smoothly, even though it's also a 2-color deck.
Yeah, but most of the double color cards you were only playing in your main deck is like Embercleave and that other Great Henge. So
Right.
your your early plays you need either green or red, and you don't really care about double. So this one is like you will lose the game very quickly if you can't play your Soaring Thought Thief or your Drown Lock.
Exactly. And I remember sitting there being like, I only have like one black and I need to play, like I can't play Thieves Guild Enforcer, then Soaring Thought Thief, which is what I want to do this turn. That type of stuff would always happen. So the mana is huge to get Watery Grave into the mix. Obviously, we still have the Clearwater Pathways. And then blue and black just has a lot of really good utility lands, like, the man lands, or the creature lands, I mean, from
Adventures, yeah.
D&D. Get Drowned Catacomb, which I like because you actually have a lot of like swamp and island stuff. It's really nice to play the deck with where you don't really lose to your mana in the same way that you used to.
The one thing that we are playing. Well, now we're just talking about the deck list. I told everyone we were going to talk about it, but whatever. You've talked about this before, but Suspicious Stowaway is one of your like rogues.
Yeah, it's a pet card for me for sure.
Yeah, that if Jeff is building a rogues deck, I will try to push this card out. I don't love it.
Yeah, it's the thing Zach's going to cut and the thing I'm going to make sure is in the list.
Yeah. And though my opponents tend to identify it as a card that needs to die, so it must be better than I think it is. So
it's a lightning rod for removal.
Yeah.
I think erroneously a lot of the time, like my opponents kill that, and it's like you
shouldn't have killed that.
Really should have killed the Thieves Guild Enforcer, but all right.
Yeah.
That was a weird decision. Like I was gonna loot. Who cares?
Yeah, they tend to hate that quite a bit.
I honestly think people don't like having to worry about werewolves flipping. And so killing it means, okay, I don't have to worry that it's going to flip into the good side.
Yeah, that's true. Especially because this deck is good because most of the time you don't want to play it at sorcery speed, so it will flip. So
yeah,
it is smart. I just hate that it's a werewolf it's not a rogue werewolf on the back.
It's
just
so annoying that the other side isn't a rogue. I hate that. That gets me every time too. I never remember that.
Because when you're counting damage, you fuck it up. Yeah,
getting the bonus. Yeah.
So sometimes it's like you don't want it to flip because then it actually deals less damage because you have two Soaring Thought Thieves out. But whatever.
And it makes no sense because like a werewolf is a werewolf in either form. If you're a human rogue. Like, if you're a rogue werewolf, you're still a rogue in your other form. You know what I mean?
No, but not really, because your werewolf form takes over, and you don't remember anything about your... Right? Or are the werewolves different? In normal lore...
I think they're different.
When a werewolf becomes a werewolf, they, like, forget everything. And they just are in a crazy daze, and then they wake up somewhere.
I can't remember. I know, like, special ones didn't have that, like Arlen and...
Arlen, Tovalar.
Tovalar. I feel like they were special, maybe, and
I can remember.
I don't know. I feel like they could kind of like switch back and forth.
No, because they could talk, right?
Their brains intact.
They could talk.
They could talk.
They could talk to the vampires and be like, "I'm gonna eat you," or whatever they said.
Yeah, I'm gonna rip you in half. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this card should be a rogue on both sides because that would make my life a lot easier.
I mean, I would like it to. It's not, but I would like it to.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say the big thing with this deck compared to the standard one is that we're not playing Ruin Crab because it's really just not good enough, which does take away a little bit of the am I going to get milled, am I going to lose from damage thing.
I never win with milling in this deck.
And
it's always damage.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting pinpoint now because in the standard deck you were like, I can mill you to death. And sometimes I can do that so fast that even the cards that you cited in that are your hate cards that are in the graveyard, escape creatures, any flashback cards, things like that, you won't be able to win with. This version now needs to hit a bit harder. And so you need to make sure that you are... The Soaring Thought Thief just becomes so much more important, I think, in this version and in this format because you need your lords to... be able to kill them. Like, a lot of the games come down to I can deal 6 damage and they're at 7. and I need to rip.
I know.
I need to draw.
It's shocking how often you're off by one.
Yeah, it's like I need to draw a Soaring Thought Thief, or I need to get a Kaito to get a Soaring Thought Thief, or something like any card off the top that lets me draw, or anything like that. So that becomes important when you're playing this deck, which you should. You should come to our Discord, download it. It's a lot of fun. It is hard though.
Yeah,
because
and that's what I think is awesome about it. It's like, I was telling you when I was playing the deck, you're like, oh, how's it going?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm doing fairly well with it, like generally winning records. I play in leagues, so not on the ladder. I just jump into a 5-game event, and I never got the 5-0. I'm still searching for that one. I was hoping to get a 5-0 before we're doing this show so that I could be like, yeah, I got the 5-0. I got a lot of 4-1s though. I was telling Zach before, I was like, I think most of my losses are my fault. It's not like my deck is bad, it's that I'm bad, which we were joking about it. Like, for some reason, I take that as a good thing. It's like, no, the deck I built isn't bad. I'm bad. That's why I lost.
Yeah.
Okay. Phew. I was worried that the deck I built was bad.
And of course, I feel exactly the opposite because I don't build very many decks, and so I'm always losing because I'm bad. And so I'd much rather lose because the deck's bad and I did all the correct things.
You're like, this deck Jeff built sucks, man. Like, yeah, I played perfect.
Yeah, which of course is, I think, more common to feel that way. And so then, so I'm, maybe I'm just not up to the tier that you're at right now. But who knows? I'll play this deck.
It's just the deck has so many decisions, and you can always look back and be like, if I'd done this other thing, I think I might have won that game.
Yes, that is very true.
And then you get into the tricky part of like, does that mean that it was incorrect to do what I did, or was it just correct, but I lost anyways? Like the chips fell where they did.
Where they did. I don't know. I do want to ask though, for your matchups. What are the matchups you like with this deck? Because I really don't know. Every time I'm playing against a deck, I'm like, I'm going to play it and see.
Yeah, perfect transition, because I want to talk a little bit about Explorer, like metagame, what you're seeing and stuff.
Yeah.
I think the most popular deck, just from the experience I've had, is Mono Green Karn.
Yes.
I play against that deck all the time, and I think it probably is the de facto best deck.
It's very.
If I think about Explorer, I think of that deck as being like not only the new thing with Nixthos being released, but also like it's one of the best decks in Pioneer and has been for a long time. It's like held that title, so it really shows its worth. Now the Explorer deck's not exactly the same, but still it's like very powerful what it can do. It can generate so much mana and then just play really
whatever.
Just a lot of stuff.
It's
I have found the matchup to be positive. Like, I tend to beat this deck, which I think is a huge plus for rogues. I think sometimes they're just too fast. They get too much mana down too quickly, and like your interaction isn't set up. But generally, when they're playing 10 mana for like the Storm the Festival, and I can counter it for 2 mana, that's like a huge boon. And they don't have great. They have the Cavalier Thorns to block flyers, but otherwise they have a really hard time dealing with flyers because they don't really play removal.
I lost to that the other day because I didn't remember it had reach.
Yeah,
and I attacked right.
You gotta watch out for the Cavalier.
I slammed my Soaring Thought Thief, being like, "Ha, you're dead."
Yeah,
and then I was like, "Fuck, no."
They snap block, and you're like,
"Oh shit, I forgot about that whole interaction."
That's when you throw the old oops.
And I was like, "Oh, I was supposed to plus Kaito and loot to see if I could get a removal spell. That was what I was supposed to do, and I didn't."
Yeah.
Oops.
And green doesn't have a great way to punish you for milling them. Like they have Storm the Festival, but it's so expensive that you're generally not that worried about it.
Yeah, it is main deck though, so every once in a while I mill them on turn 1 and they mill 2 into their graveyard. I'm like, oh great. I'm excited to see that later. Right. But you're right.
It's just so expensive though. Like I never really I'm gonna counter that at some point. I know you're gonna tap out for that thing. And there's nothing better than hitting a 10 mana spell with Jwari Disruption.
Now I was gonna say now that I think about it, when I played that match, it was like one turn they cast Storm the Festival and I countered it, and then the next turn they flashed it back and I countered it with Jawari Disruption. I was like,
Yes.
that feels very good. I like that a lot.
I had it happen once when my opponent had a Nissa out too. Like they had so much mana, but they decided to play something and then tap out to flash it back. And I was like, ha ha ha, Jawari Disruption.
Yeah.
And then they go oops and play a forest. And I was like, yes.
That's the best. That's
Got 'em.
the best feeling. I love that. I love it. So I do see what you're saying, that we do have counter spells. This deck does want to play like big thing. You know, it's one of those decks that this archetype is usually good against, where they're trying to just play one big spell that does a bunch of shit. I just think sometimes that they have so much goddamn stuff. Like sometimes it's like they're playing 4 spells a turn that I can't do anything.
Oh yeah, and it's for like impactful spells.
Yeah, that's like okay, I can't counter the right thing. The one thing I will say is that the mulligans for this deck are super greedy, because the amount of times I've beat people on Karn because all they had was Forest, Llanowar Elf, next turn Llanowar Elf, Llanowar Elf kind of thing, where they just don't have more lands. They're just like looking at their elves as if they're lands, and I'm like, they're not though, bro. Yeah.
Ooh, this fatal push says otherwise.
That sucks. So that is one thing to look out for, that you can super punish the Karn player for being way too greedy with their mana base and playing too many, not playing enough lands.
Yeah, I haven't totally figured out how I like to sideboard. I like Thoughtseizes against them because they just have huge, like taking their Karn or their Nissa or something. Really, a lot of the times, like the other side of what you're saying is they'll often keep a land heavy or elf heavy hand that is turboing into just one. They have one threat, and it's like Karn or something. And if it's usually Karn, and Karn is so good that it's worth it to keep that hand for them. And if you Thoughtseize that Karn, like their hand does nothing.
It's just horrible. Yeah.
So that's like the other side of the. It's not like the 1-lander with the elves. It's like the 6-lander with the Karn, or like the 5-lander, the elf and the Karn. That just gets blown up by Thoughtseize. I kind of like Nighthawk Scavenger because like if they fight it with the Hydra dies. It's just nice to have Death Touch against something with gigantic creatures.
And adding more Death Touch
is
is nice, because you already have some with the Enforcers, but...
Right. I tend to not worry about graveyard like Cling to Dust. It's not that vital for me. I just think if they're getting to 10 mana to flash back the Storm the Festival, like, I mean, I don't know. They're probably going to lose. So, and I think on Fatal Push, I generally bring them out on the play, but on the draw, I'll keep them to kill the elf.
That makes sense. You also have Witch's Vengeance in the sideboard. I just wanted to ask you about it specifically because the other card you can play is Crippling Fear, which is 1 mana more, but kills more things.
Yeah, Witch's Vengeance, honestly, I just kind of threw in.
Okay.
It should probably be Extinction Event, actually.
Okay.
So we can get on to the next deck that I've just been seeing a huge surge in, and I think has gotten really good recently, and that's Angels. I'm seeing a lot more Angels than I used to, and it just feels like it's actually a good deck now. I think it's like, it might just be a tier 1 deck now.
Really?
Or it's close.
I haven't seen Angels in a while, but I'm also playing on the ladder right now because I've been kind of lazy and not jumping into the events I normally would want to play. But
so basically, they got Collected Companies 5 through 8. There's that like white one in Brothers War that is a Collected Company clone. It's like 5 mana sorcery instead of being a 4 mana instance. It's much worse, but it can also go bigger. You can get more creatures off it in the late game, and then having that like extra 4 copies of Collected Company just really made this deck a lot better. I think this is a pretty tough matchup. They make a lot of big life-linking flyers, or like life-gaining flyers. It's really hard to just interact with that. Like the Rogues deck really relies on being able to attack in the air.
yeah.
And so the Witch's Vengeance was sort of meant to be like, I don't know, let's try and fight angels a bit. Not sure if that's even worth it. Like, maybe it's just a tough matchup, you know?
Yeah.
And Witch's Vengeance is, like, too small to even kill a lot of the angels.
That's what I
a
was
lot of the
thinking
time,
too.
so-
Yeah. Because, like, one of the angels you really want to get is the Righteous Valkyrie, which is a 2/4. And that one pumps
Yeah,
their whole
that is
team.
annoying.
So that is interesting. I wasn't thinking of, because I haven't run into angels in a while, so it's interesting to hear that's
I've hit it a few times.
the
and
bane
I've
of your
been like,
existence. But
this is like really good.
it is really, it makes me think like a great way of beating life game decks is milling them. So is there like a different strategy where you can sideboard into a mill deck?
For Ruin Crab
Yeah.
sideboard.
And so that becomes your new plan?
Yeah, because the old Rogues deck, that was one of its strengths, was like when the creature strategy doesn't work, you just mill them.
Yeah.
Whatever. Because very few decks are good against both. Good against like getting milled and good against creatures.
Exactly. I think this is a deck in progress, but I still don't think Ruin Crab is good enough, but I want it to be.
Ruin Crab it just doesn't feel Explorer, and I've tried it a couple of times. Like, I feel like it's just not good. I wonder if there's like other mill cards we could be looking at, but
I don't know. I think I was looking at other rogues we could be playing too. But all of them are just, they always seem exciting.
yeah.
You're like, oh, sweet, we could play Gonti. But I'm like, oh no. But like, I don't know. Gonti, is he?
It's a lot of mana for this deck.
It's so
4
expensive.
mana.
The only one that I was like, oh, maybe that could be something is Criddle of Baldur's Gate.
I tried that card back when it was like in Standard, and I was unimpressed by it. But
It's-
it could be worth trying again.
I don't know, maybe just because like
You just look at the creatures in this deck, and like, except Merfolk Windropper, they're all so good.
yeah,
What's it replace? Not replacing like Brazy B.
no, it's not going to replace Brazy B, but it might replace Suspicious Stowaway.
No, don't talk crazy. It's an auto include, man.
It just makes cards like unblockable, and you can make the stronger ones unblockable. But anyway, I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing for Witch's Vengeance is I don't know if you've been running into a lot of mono white humans, but
That is what I thought it was for. Was mono white humans.
yeah. That's what I like originally had it in the deck for, but I haven't run into mono white humans as much as I thought I would. But even there, it can often be too small because like they get all the counters.
They get all the counters and stuff. Yeah, it's hard. So if you're playing Extinction Event, like that's a card I hate playing against. Like I don't want my opponent to have Extinction Event. It's just the worst. I don't know. I guess I don't really have a question. It's so surprising because I hate that card. But
yeah, I think it's necessary. And maybe the way you play these creature matchups is you just don't commit to the board in the early game.
that's true.
They are like Angels has to commit to the board.
Yeah.
They have to. They can't.
There's nothing else they can do. Yeah.
So they get really blown out by an extinction event, and then you flash in all your creatures after that. But I don't think it's like a great plan.
Yeah, I think that's hard because I feel like they have I don't know, just would you pick odd?
It depends, obviously, what you have, but
Yeah,
we have a fairly even split of even and odd.
that
We have 6 even, and I guess we have a lot more odd creatures actually because the stupid wind robbers.
yeah. I guess there just isn't a good.
You can often sack the wind robber, like trade it in, and then cast your thing.
And then do it. That is true. It's always the sad thing of like Extinction Event doesn't put any of the creatures in their graveyard. So if you're looking for, you're on like 5 cards and you're like, I need something to get a couple things in the graveyard. It just won't do it. So
You can also consider like Languish, I guess.
I think Languish. No, but I liked the other ones where you didn't lose your creatures too. I guess maybe we're just not interested in a board wipe.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like maybe the Witch's Vengeance just shouldn't be there, and we just accept that Angels is a tough matchup.
Maybe we just take
I don't find humans as tough as Angels, but because they don't have the same flying
capabilities and like, yeah, you don't have as much. Like you have to side into Death Touch in the air, and your
Thalia's like 50-50 whether it's good against us. If we have a creature hand, it's like really bad. But if we have a non-creature hand, it's very good.
yeah, but Thalia like cleanly eats a like Thieves Guild Enforcer that's like
true.
buffed.
That's true, yeah.
So like you can eat it with a Soaring Thought Thief, but besides that, most of your creatures just die. Like you can't even trade. So that's rough. That sounds rough.
I feel like I get it with the Soaring Thought Thief all the time, though. Like,
yeah, but
people
that's just your
expecting me to be on rogues, and they just attack into it, and I'm like, sucker.
Yeah, that's true. But like, eventually, this deck is going to be so good. It's going to be everywhere. Everyone's going to be playing it. You know,
nobody's going to.
So you can't just expect that to happen.
And then the other two decks I see all the time: Rakdos Midrange and Azorius Control.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like those. I like the control matchup. I think.
Yes.
Azorius Control. Like, this is what the kind of deck Rogues is designed to beat, basically. And Rakdos Midrange, I've had a lot of success with it, but I feel like my opponents have made a lot of mistakes when I've been playing, where it's just like, okay, you haven't played against the Rogues deck in a while or ever, because you are not making the correct decisions. Mm-hmm. So I think the matchup might be like closer to 50-50 with, or maybe even like unfavorable just because their cards are so powerful. And I've just been like, I have a good record just because my opponents don't really understand what my deck does.
Yeah. The only thing that's hard, that matchup is like
when they Thoughtseize me, they always take the wrong thing. I'm just, what? Why did you take that?
Yeah. Sometimes I'm sitting there with 2 mana being like, all right, I'm going to play my Soaring Thought Thief, but maybe I'll see what you try to take. And then they like...
Wait, you took my Thoughtseize? Like,
yeah,
what?
Why would you take that? It's just like the weirdest thing.
What is in your hand? Do you have one good card in your hand and you really can't beat a Thoughtseize?
Yeah, just that kind of stuff is so interesting. But have you had, like, being... Sorry. Has Kroxa been a difficult thing to deal with in this deck? I've run into it a couple times, but for the most part, it just seemed like their, hey, I'm gonna win now thing, and it didn't always get there.
Yeah, Kroxa is decent against rogues, but it's not that good actually. It's like worse than you would expect it to be. I think, just because by the time it's like set up to actually do its thing, sure it weakens all your stuff. But when you're in that position, you don't tend to care that much. Like, I don't know. I've just been lucky, but I've always found it a bit too clunky to really punish me. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the thing about Ox of Agonis was it cost 2, right? So when you mill it, it's like, damn, this gets rid of a lot of cards and only costs 2 mana.
Yeah.
The fact that Kroxa costs 4 always makes it like, you can always tag it with Cling to Dust, or you can like counter it and just remill them. It feels like you always find an answer before the Kroxa really wrecks you. But there are some games where if you don't find that answer, like, yeah, you're gonna lose.
Yeah, you're gonna lose. No, and you're right. Like the Ox was better because it would like draw them cards, and Kroxa just.
Oh, the Ox was like so good.
Yeah, and
if Rogues becomes good again, people will start putting Ox back in the.
Yeah, I think personally, like I didn't like Ox, but the Phoenix was the one that I think I died to more often. Where it's just like this fucking stupid flyer. Because it always pumps you, because it has like fire breathing, so it pumps you into oblivion. You're like, fuck.
Yeah, I mean that was just a really good card.
Yeah,
Phoenix.
Hey, if this deck had, it's the classic thing of like, if we have a good matchup against the best deck, which is Green Karn, then
I think we do. I think I'm pretty confident in that. Like, if this deck got more popular, I think Green Karn could adjust to improve the matchup. Like, it's not like we blow them out of the water. It's probably like 55% in our favor kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty confident we have a good matchup there.
But like, I haven't. So a lot of times when I'll play a deck and I'm like, ugh, this is terrible, and I put it down, it's because it can't beat the decks I play against the most often. And I'm always, at least on the ladder, because I haven't been playing the events, I'm always playing against Green Karn and Rakdos Midrange. And those are like the 2 decks I'm going to play. Yeah. And I feel like I have a fighting chance in both of them. So I'm like...
Definitely. Yeah. Those are like my highest win rate matchups, actually. Yeah. But like I said, I think the Rakdos one is more about
people fucking
just opponents making mistakes than it being a super good matchup.
Yeah. And also, like, you know, if you can routinely Jawari Disruption, their Fable of the Mirror Breaker, you're like, yeah, this is, I'm fine.
Oh, so that does remind me there are some variants. Like, there's a lot you can do with rogues. We're obviously talking just blue-black rogues with no crab. Obviously, you could put in more of a mill aspect, right, and do the brew and grab thing. The other thing you could do if you wanted to stick blue-black is, like, you can do this weird rogues ninja blend that relies on the like, Ninja Turtle rat guy.
Silver Fur Master or something.
Yeah, I haven't even tried that because I tried it in like standard and it was really bad. But that's something you could try, and that the big draw for that is that you get the 1-drop ninja. That's a huge upgrade on Windrobber, because one of the biggest weaknesses of this deck is that you need more than one drop. We were talking about this off air a little bit. Thieves Guild Enforcer is not enough. You need another 1-drop, but there are no other good 1-drop rogues. The next best thing is Merfolk Windrobber, which is okay at best and is really not like explorer power. But like, I'm still playing 3 of them because you need to get more rogues in the deck, and you want them to be cheap.
Yeah, and it every once in a while mills the last card you needed, and so it feels okay. Yep. Or block,
and then you like trade it in for a card later.
Yeah, like, and you're like, okay, yeah. But you never feel.
Or it attacks for the Soaring Thought Thief. It triggers it.
Yeah, it never feels super good. You have to play it at sorcery speed. It just like, it doesn't do anything when it comes down. It's just like, oof, I just don't love this card, and for whatever reason, every time you think you can block sack and draw a card, like, somehow a card got out of their graveyard, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, he's like, wait, what? Oh no, it's just chump block.
Yeah, and then you just chump block, and then you want to. Well, that's when you've had a couple beers and you're mad, and then you're like, whatever. Yeah. But what I do like about your list specifically, and I don't know if you did this on purpose, but I'm assuming you did, is that there were 3 Merfolk Windrobbers, but however, in the sideboard, there were also 3 Spell Pierces. So one of my favorite things is immediately take out the Windrobbers,
swap,
put in the Spell Pierces. There we go. That is going to be my sideboarding.
On the drive, I really often do that, unless the other deck's like, if it's Angels or Humans. Like, obviously, I'm not siding against Spell Pierce, but a lot of decks play a lot of things that just get wrecked by Spell Pierce, and I love making that swap as well.
That's so good.
The other thing you can do with this deck is consider splashes. There are 2 splashes that I've considered. One is green, and the big thing to do there is get a like energy sub-theme. So you can put in Rogue Refiner, you can put in Energy Bob for the Glint Sleeve Siphoner.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to say. And if you want the like thing that fetches a basic land and gets you 2 energy, I think it's a really cool idea. The problem with it is it's a lot of sorcery speed stuff, and so you're like, all of those cards I just mentioned are sorcery speed, and Glint Sleeve Siphoner is really the only payoff. Like, you have Ether Hub as well, which is decent, but like I said, the mana's not that bad in this deck, so you don't really need Ether Hub. And so if you had one more reason to use energy, one more good way to use energy, I think that would be a really viable option. But because the only real way to use energy is the Glint Sleeve Siphoner, and it just ends up dying, like, I wasn't super impressed with this build of the deck. But hey, maybe like you guys can explore it and figure out the right way to build it. The other thing, and this sounds a little crazy, but it actually like went over fairly well, was to splash red for Kiki Jiki.
Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
That's it. You just have Fable of the Mirror Breaker in your deck. It's just a really good card, and Rogues loves to have all that extra mana from the treasures, and like, there's a lot of really high quality stuff to copy if you ever flip the Kiki Jiki.
That's true.
It's just like a really good card, and like, Rogues loves looting as well. I think I ended up deciding that like I said, I don't like to play decks with bad mana, and the mana does get worse when you do that. but it was like shockingly good. Yeah, just because that card is so good, I guess.
Do you swap
and you
out?
can throw some other stuff in your sideboard, and you can like you can put some like lightning bolt style stuff, which gives you a bit of reach if you wanted. But mostly just Fable. And I was calling that deck Rouges. That's, similar to Rogues.
That's funny.
Course.
That's funny. I like it. Rouges.
Is French.
I feel so. What cards did you take out the like Kaito and Liliana, and you put in the Fable of the Mirror Rigger instead? Just literally clean.
Pretty much. Yeah, I left like a Kaito in there, and then I took out. What did I take out? I took out the Make Disappears from the list I sent you because I don't like the Make Disappear. So it was like -1 Kaito, -1 Liliana, -2 Make Disappear.
Gotcha.
And then obviously you rejig the mana.
Yeah, of course. And you're playing Xander's Lounge and all those things.
But it's so annoying when you have Xander's Lounge and Thieves Guild Enforcer, and you're just like,
yeah, and you're like,
I can't play it on turn 1.
That is annoying. But the deck is also different. I love the idea of copying Thieves Guild Enforcers or Soaring Thought Thieves.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's really good.
That sounds very good.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I just copied Soaring Thought Thief, right?
Yeah.
And
that's a lord.
Boatload of damage.
Sick.
And even though I haven't, they have almost no cards in their graveyard, copying Soaring Thought Thief gets you there. It's just.
You're like, sick. Yeah. All right. Oh, you have 4 cards in your graveyard? I attack, and now you have 8, and then I win. That's awesome.
Yep.
Anyway, if you haven't realized, we love rogues, and there's a lot of cool things you can do with rogues. So
I think the other big takeaway is Explorer is a pretty fun format.
It's cool.
There's a lot of different diverse decks. Mono green is the best deck, but then what else did we talk about? Angels. We talked about mono white humans, so 2 tribal aggro decks, 1 ramp deck.
yeah.
Talking about mid-range, Rakdos mid-range,
Control.
and then Azorius control and a control deck. These are all I think, like I said, I think Green Karn's the best. So
yeah.
Green Karn's tier 0, and everything else I listed is probably tier 1. So
I don't know.
I think overall, how good have you felt Rogues is? Would you say Rogues is tier 1? Or do you just feel kind of overpowered by some of the other decks sometimes?
Sometimes I feel a little bit overpowered. Man, I just really can't get there. But for the most part, I do feel like I have a fighting chance, and I 100% agree that it does feel man, if I just did this different, I'm sure I could have got there. But I feel
like Arna Hushenbet would have won this.
Yeah,
game.
It's so I would love to see if Arna has a list that he is playing an Explorer. Maybe we should send this to him and be like, hey, what do you think? But
please play Rogues.
Please play Rogues.
I think it's probably solidly tier 2. It's exactly what you're saying. You always have a shot, but the deck doesn't just win games for you. All of these tier 1 decks, especially mono green, it just wins.
You just go boom, boom, boom.
You just have draws where you're you lose.
Easy. That's it. Even with the Karn board being I have to pick the right Karn card.
Right.
Still, it's yeah. And
what did somebody sideboard against me? Oh yeah, they Karned for Tormod's Crypt and nuked their own graveyard, and I was like, that's not even that good.
Yeah.
Now I kill your Karn and I just play more rogues and million.
And then I just need 8.
Really, the best you could? I feel like you must have had something better than that.
Probably almost everything is better than that.
Yeah, that was the worst pick.
That's you. That's not what you want. Oh, you don't? Yeah, that's bad.
And I'm laughing, but probably the player has no real experience with rogues. They see that
there's a mill thing.
Rogues,
yeah, they read the card.
Oh, you're milling me, yeah. So this is going to be pretty good. It's just it's so easy for me to reset that, and I only had mild bonuses coming from your graveyard.
Yeah,
it's not that big a deal. Probably should have got something that protects your card. But yeah, I think the deck's a lot of fun. It's tier 2 probably. I think if we got one more really good 1-drop rogue, another Thieves Guild Enforcer, then it might be in the conversation of a really strong deck. But sometimes, you're saying, sometimes the other deck just has better cards, like on an individual card for card basis, and you're like, ugh, this is an uphill battle. Like,
Yeah,
every card you play is just so like
it's like
high
2 or
powered.
3 cards, and mine are 1-for-1 removal, or I play my
Right.
one.
And I didn't find it into the story, so
Exactly. We'll see. We have Throne of Eldraine coming out next fall. So either we'll get, there's a possibility we'll get some more cards that are payoffs if they make blue-black the same kind of strategy.
do the same thing. Yeah.
Or, there were a couple rogues in that set, so maybe they'll give us a rogue. It'd be really cool. But fun to have that in our back pocket. Always looking for that one drop that we love because
I've hated Merfolk Windrobber in the deck since the
Its
first
inception.
time we played the standard version.
Yeah.
I've always hated it.
It's always been.
But it's like a necessary evil.
It's
I've always
horrible.
had to play.
Because every once in a while, like, it's just like, well, thank God I had a rogue that cost blue, and that's it. Like, that's all. It could have been any rogue that cost blue. Was
It's
good.
the only thing it brings to the table. Yeah.
At least it's flying and it can block. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
Jeff, that's been a lot of fun. This episode has been great.
Yes.
Let's go to last call.
Let's do it.
Well, it's episode 100. We have rated so many beers. I want to say that we've rated 200 beers, but that's not true. It's probably 199 because
Right.
from different things. But it's time to rate this beer. And as always, we're going to run through our rating system if you haven't heard it before. And we like to rate beers on the tiers in Arena because it's fun. Has nothing to do with what tier you are in currently. As I said earlier, I've been in bronze recently, so
Oh yeah.
it is
double
what it is.
bronze over here. So.
But with that being said, bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. You have to pour them out. There's no salvaging them.
Yeah. Silver beers are just kind of boring. Their macro brews tend to fall into this category, or micro brews that just don't have a lot going on.
Gold beers are fine, but you don't really think about them very often, and they're just gonna kind of fade away. But yeah, it's beer.
Platinum, these are solid. You drink these again, you like it. It's good.
Diamond beers are exceptional. These are ones that you think about a lot. They're the ones that you bring to parties, you show to friends, and you're like, you show off a little bit. You like them.
Yeah. And Mythic, these are the best of the best. You would, these are the beers that you go out of your way to acquire. You talk to anyone who will listen about them. These are just the top notch, the very best.
Yeah. With that being said, Jeff, we have a beer to rate. Just one this evening. Theives Guild ImperiMILL Stout.
ImperiMILL Stout, yeah. I liked it. It turned out better than I thought it was going to, with all of the sketchiness
Stuff.
that happened during the brewing process. I was worried I ruined it with the cold ferment, that it's going to have some off flavors in it, but I didn't really detect any of that. It has kind of the chocolatey notes that we were looking for, but not super, not crazy on that kind of stuff. It still tastes like beer. It still tastes like a stout. It maybe could be carbonated a little more. That's because I didn't want to carbonate it. I put it at 20 psi for a day, and normally for like an ale, I would put it at 30 psi probably for 2 days, because I wanted it to be less carbonated than like an ale. Or whatever,
for
but
sure.
I might have undershot it a little bit, but it tastes good.
I think it tastes very good. Mine are almost not. It feels they're almost not carbonated at all, but
Right.
with
Feel
the
kind of bad about that.
whatever. But it's also the growlers I have are screw top ones, so I'm sure that had something to do with it, because they were not as tight as they could have possibly been, which I was the one that tightened them. But anyway,
It's not a great seal.
but delicious. I think all the flavors were there. All the off flavors that I taste in all of my beers were not present. My classic green apple taste that I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's gotta be when
why
you
does
pitch
everything taste
these.
like apple?
It's terrible. So this was very exciting. And usually my thing right now is like my dad, he makes ribs. It's like a thing he likes doing. And he makes very good pork ribs. And one of the things he needs for he does a wet rub. Wet rub? That's the word, right? Yeah, this sounds gross. But like it's rub.
Yeah.
It sounds like
Can we call it like a marinade?
Marinade, there you go. I was because there's like a dry rub, right? So like, is it also called a wet rub?
I hate that.
I hate it. I just like it was in my brain. I thought that's what it was called. Maybe it's not. Anyway, he marinates it. But he always has like a big beefy stout is part of the recipe.
Nice.
And so I've always wanted to be able to give him a stout that I've made for the ribs. And this feels like a worthy candidate. That it was like, I could give this and be like, this will help make good ribs and also taste great. Because usually he uses half of it and then I get to drink the rest.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It was awesome.
It's good.
It was really good.
Yeah.
We should make it again.
I'm not sure where to rate it. Like, we didn't... It's always hard when you made it, right? Because it's like, are we rating against... What are we rating against? Like, is it expectation? And it's not perfect. We made some mistakes. We didn't hit our target on ABV for sure. I don't know what the ABV is, but it's not 10. It's probably like 8.
It feels kind of like 8.5, 9. When I was getting my second one, I was like
I'm getting buzzed.
I was like, this feels like 9, but it definitely isn't. It's not 10 for sure, but I could see 8. I'm gonna say 8.5. That's my guess.
Yeah, I mean, we'll never know the answer, but that seems like a reasonable guess based on just having 2 of these. Yeah. And like, we've done this enough times to know
that's true.
What it feels like when it's a 5% beer. I can tell you it's not that.
Yeah, it's definitely not 5.
But it tastes really good. It has, like you said, it doesn't really have off flavors. It sort of was what we wanted to make. So, I think I'm going to give us a diamond on this one.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Like we did a good job.
I think we did a great job.
Ad hoc.
I'm also going to give us a diamond. I wanted it to be mythic, obviously. But I think if we just... the thing is, I think the recipe was awesome, and I think that we just need to... It's a recipe that I want to keep. That's the thing. When you like cooking meals...
Yeah, exactly.
And Catherine and I do this thing, my fiance, she'll find recipes and we'll make them, and she usually looks over and says, like, is this one that we keep? Kind of like, are we going to do this one again? To put in the binder with all the other recipes we like, or what are the things I need to write notes on about, like, oh, next time do this, whatever, or throw this away. And a lot of the time, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, like we could do what, yeah, it's fine. But every once in a while, it's like,
does it make the binder?
Yeah, like does it make the? And recently, we had a meal that like made the binder, and I was like, oh no, keep this one, as like this is when we make this casserole or we make these meatballs, it's gonna be this recipe.
Right when we do this.
Yeah, and this one feels like when we make imperial stout or we try to do this recipe feels good. I don't think we need to change anything but that. It's only tweaking execution.
Yeah, exactly.
And
just do it again and learn from. Maybe don't maim myself this time.
Yeah, well, for sure, that part. But also, like, we know how to use the gas lighter thing now, and like, all of those things that were like new, and like remembering the thing about the mash and all that stuff that we could have been like, yes, right. Also, maybe. Does that need to be hotter out? No. We should probably just do this next weekend.
Yeah.
Julia would be so stoked. Oh, you guys are making more stout for the carpet?
She gets a brand new rug in for the downstairs.
Whoops. Well, you know what you need to do? Take that rug, if you didn't throw it out yet, and dip it in more stout. And then now it's just dark.
It's just a black rug.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to waste this delicious stout on the rug, though.
Yeah, probably not. Anyway, Jeff, we are coming in to closing time.
Closing out the 100th episode.
Closing out.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Wow. It's been over 2 years we've been working on this podcast and sharing it with you all. So if you've made it this far, thanks for sticking with us. And tell us what you think at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, you may find us on MTG Arena itself. We mentioned this earlier. We have an account called Arena Regulars Podcast. I might fire that up again because I might have an Explorer deck in that account.
Yeah, just about. There's a couple rares we need to buy, but for the most part, they should be there. If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at Zulberg. That's ZEULBERG on Twitter and Instagram. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is on our Discord channel. I'm Regular Jeff in the Discord channel, and you should be able to find the link to that in the show notes.
Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, on iTunes, follow us on Spotify, and leave us a review there. Go to YouTube, like a video that's just a picture of our logo and, our our audio. One day we may figure out how to do a video podcast, but it's not going to be today. This has been the Arena Regulars,
reminding you that we made 100 episodes.
Good night. All right, that's fine.